The Black Anglo-Saxon, and I'm back with another video from the hood to the hill, your favorite neighborhood political scientist. I'm back for the first time after my 35th birthday, so thank you everybody who has been supportive. I appreciate y'all. I also want to say thank you to everybody for helping me get over 250 subscribers. Super important. Please share the video, like the video. It's very helpful. I'm trying to hit 1,000 within the next couple months just so that I can monetize and get everything up and running, because as I have told y'all on this podcast before, I'm just trying to hack the algorithm so I can interrupt and disrupt a lot of conversations and just have more capacity to organize and touch people across different jurisdictions, as well as just have more impact here in my home city, Washington, D.C., as it relates to scale. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into the discussion, because today we're going to be talking about gerrymandering. There was some kerfuffle that happened out here with the Republican Party, who has now tried to trample on districts over in California, Texas, I believe, and basically everything that's happening around that. Gavin Newsom has responded with what I believe is Prop 50. Without jumping too early into my own thoughts, I just think that it's overall an unfortunate situation, just because I think it's not really about the residents themselves, unfortunately, and it's two political parties, big money being thrown around for the interests of power, and I think that's very disgusting. But I wanted to bring in some articles just so that I could touch on some of the pieces around what gerrymandering is, where it started, and just kind of some of the background noise before I get into my own personal opinion and how I feel about it. But without further ado, go ahead, like I said, please hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. And so I'm gonna just go ahead and jump into this. All right, so right here, what we have is an article from What We Know About Redistricting and Redistricting Reform from Lee Drutman. I want to say this is from New America. I'll drop this in a link to share with everybody. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is just jump to my own personal highlights, just so that we can have a discussion about the specific pieces that I think are more important. So right here it says 1787 to 1840, problematic from the creation. It says gerrymandering, or the practice of manipulating district boundaries to achieve a certain result, often advantage one party or protect incumbents, which is basically the person already in office, for anybody who may not necessarily know, is old as America. In drawing the first congressional maps in 1788, anti-federalists in Virginia forced Federalist candidate James Madison into the same seat as anti-federalist James Monroe, in hope of keeping Madison out of Congress. The term gerrymander itself was coined in 1812, a portmanteau of Massachusetts Governor's Eldridge Gerry. And I want to say that's like a box or something like that. I'm not too sure. Y'all can correct me in the chat. And salamander. It's described as snaking state Senate district designed especially to help Gerry's party, the Democratic Republicans, gain seats in the chamber. So, like I said, my biggest issue with this whole ordeal is that a lot of it is centered around, and still has been always centered around, gaining more power. And I think that's super important, because a lot of people are talking about this, a lot of the feedback and a lot of the, critiques that I've heard, the smarter ones are saying that this isn't a winning battle for the average American person. But then you have those people on a partisan side who are saying, we got to hit them back and blah, 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 and we got to fight back fire with fire. And it's like, yeah, but you weren't necessarily fighting fire with fire. Fighting fire with fire would have probably been addressing this right here in this moment in time that we're talking about. But we've let it get to a point that I believe is unfortunately hard to control right now. So let me jump down. And it says the Constitution said nothing about how states should select their representatives. Article 1, Section 4 says the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives, which is the House, shall be prescribed in each state by the legislator thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations except as to the place of choosing senators. So, unfortunately, what that means is that the only people who can really intervene, and unfortunately, I want to say the Supreme Court also ruled on it and kind of allowed this to balloon into a situation that is uncontrollable. Because I forget what year it was, but I believe they took it to the Supreme Court and a discussion was had, and the Supreme Court kind of just put their hands up and said that we don't necessarily put our hands in, the political matter, which is kind of, I don't want to say that's what this is kind of getting at, but it's basically saying you're going to have to resolve this on your own. But unfortunately, we live in a very highly partisan environment, and right now we find ourselves digging deeper and deeper into the trenches of partisan politics. It says the most blatant piece of this story is Project Red Map, a redistricting majority project, a Republican project that was developed in response to the Democrat success in the 2008 election. Red Map's goal was for Republicans to gain control in the majority state legislature in time for the next round of redistricting. And so, again, basically, you take L's, you receive them, and you figure out ways to win. And sometimes that is figuring out what I would consider is cheating, but some people would consider it cutthroat. And I think that's the kind of part that I'll get to towards the end, is that we've kind of had culturally these bad habits as it relates to doing whatever it takes to win at what cost, and without actually thinking about the rubble that it leaves behind as a result of said cultural values and how you are willing to win. I mean, I think that is always important. You have some people who will disagree with me and say that, winning is the only thing that matters. Getting money is the only thing that matters. And you have some very few who are like, it does have a cost to it on the other side of it. So going down a little bit further, because I don't want to hold y'all up too long. But starting in 1994, the states began to change, and so did the game. A new era of gerrymandering battles arose as partisan politics polarized and parties sorted geographically. But this new era also spurred new reforms. For the first time, states began transferring districting authority to commissions. So right now, currently, you have commissions who are creating these districts. So that's basically, in layman's term, you're going to take a group of people that you create a body around, almost like a board of sorts, and you pick people based on certain criteria and requirements, and you fill those board seats, and you allow people to work on and redistrict the map. And again, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. I might be off a little bit, but that's the way I understand it. This new reform era focuses on the fundamental question of the core: how much fairer can districting be in the United States if it is done through commissions? How many of the problems that we ascribe to gerrymandering are really just problems inherent in the single-member district, especially when Democrats and Republicans live in such different places? It says gerrymandering has become more precise thanks to advances in computer technology that allow map drawers to generate and choose between thousands upon thousands of potential maps. But this technology-enabled precision is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, technological precision makes it easier for partisan legislators to maximize their own party's seat share with more certainty and precision. On the other hand, the improved technological precision can also help independent map drawers and courts optimize the many trade-offs between partisan fairness, competitiveness, and keeping communities together, and empower journalists, nonprofits to quantify and spotlight deviations for more neutral districting. And down here in the conclusion, it says, today is easier than ever to gerrymander precisely. Voters are more predictably partisan, which reduces the uncertainty of outcomes in drawing districts, and redistricting technology is more advanced, like we just said, and it makes it easier to maximize partisan advantage. I want to skip down, none of these conditions is likely to change anytime soon, suggesting that gerrymandering will remain a problem for the foreseeable future. However, as the 2021-2022 redistricting cycle also showed, many partisan legislators have now maximized their advantages, suggesting that there is not much room left to make the results even more disproportionate. All right, so with that, I'm gonna just go ahead and kind of parse out. This is why I don't necessarily agree with the redistricting efforts in response to Republicans trying to redistrict to unseat Democrats, because it gets into this weird tit for tat where we have, and sometimes you'll see on these maps, you'll have a map that's cohesive and then it'll be like a slither of space. It'll be like an L shape or like these weird little shapes in the map. And that is the result of gerrymandering, right? The techniques that I want to say they call it is cracking and packing. You have to understand, when you do that, you are not only consolidating your power as a political actor, but they're disfranchising you as the actual resident. So I would say to everybody who's just an average male running a person, you definitely shouldn't be supporting this. And I would also say to those who are in political office, are shakers and movers, and what I'll go into in the next article in terms of donors, you also should not be supporting this, because essentially what we'll just run into is, okay, after we do Prop 50 and let's say those go into action as a result of the redistricting maps being approved, now we have another set of gerrymandered maps, and it's just like, where are we going here? That's the question that I'm asking myself, because it's also going back to the article, or going back to the spreadsheet, whatever you want to call it. This has been going on since the inception of the nation. So when you ask yourself, okay, why would we keep participating in the behavior that, again, I get it, you got MAGA, you got Trump, you got all of these modern Republicans who are still participating in the behavior, but why double down on a particular practice that doesn't necessarily eliminate power from one party? Because as you'll see in the next article, each base has their own donor class, who ultimately are going to get richer as a result of us being further disenfranchised through what should be illegal in a lot of ways. This is a conversation, like I made in one of my other videos, about soft violence and how they aren't actually hurting people physically, but the damage that's done to that, or to districts as a result. Because when you do that, you have precinct, not only do precincts, voter precincts and all of those type of things change, the way that resources get allocated to these areas change. And if you don't necessarily have people in place to triage that, you end up with communities that are further underserved, because they already underserved communities in a lot of cases. But you end up further entrenching people into disenfranchisement on a political level, on an economic level, on a social level, etc. For the life of me, I can't understand why people think it's a good idea in any way, shape, form, or fashion to get into a bidding war to hell. Like, what are we doing, people? What are we doing? I'm really not understanding it, and I need people to explain to me the math of it. Because I hear what people are saying to me and why we should, but it is not making sense to me. I'm coming to y'all today to ask the question, why? Because maybe I am tripping, but none of me redistricting the map and gerrymandering it, and then you coming behind me, because the thing about this is that political power is going to keep swinging back and forth, right? It's not going to stay static. So when power shifts, okay, we're just going to go through another round of it without actually addressing the issues that can actually be beneficial to people, because gerrymandering takes effort, time. And even though, again, the technology is talking about precision, it's still energy put into that. And it just is baffling me, right? So this is from the New York Times in Gavin Newsom's redistricting cash blitz. Total spending to top $200 million in a November contest that could help determine control of the House next year. $200 million. These people just got too much money to be throwing around. So, okay, let's jump down because I got some specific points. Says, given that, hold on, no. It says the new congressional districts that voters are being asked to approve in the ballot measure, Prop 50, were drawn to flip 5 Republican seats in California and shore up 4 vulnerable incumbent Democrats. The new lines would apply not just in 2026, but 2028 and 2030 as well. Some early backers of the measure have included 2 major state labor unions. That's crazy, which have donated $4 million. Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix, who contributed $2 million, and the leading super PAC for House Democrats, which has transferred $3.5 million. Mr. Hastings told the New York Times that he supported it because it neutralizes the Texas power grab of 5 House seats. Ron Conway, the tech investor, well known in Silicon Valley for aggressively spending the political fundraising emails, is working in concert with Mr. Newsom and Representative Nancy Pelosi, the former House Speaker, on fundraising for the ballot measure, according to the 3 people in touch with him. Mr. Newsom's team has told the Democrats that they expect Mr. Conway to contribute another $2 million for the cause. Mr. Newsom has largely centralized power over fundraising for Prop 50, though his donor briefings also have been organized by House Majority PAC and the Democratic National Committee, according to a person with knowledge of the efforts. The California Donor Table, a progressive group, aims to raise at least $5 million for its own efforts supporting the measure, including to target voters of color. Now, biggest X factor in the race is Charles Munger Jr., a bow-tie favoring physicist whose father was Warren Buffett's business partner at Berkshire Hathaway. Mr. Munger, a moderate Republican, has spent tens of millions of dollars on redistricting and other ballot measures more than a decade ago in California, essentially disappeared from state politics. On July 16, he reemerged with not a so cryptic warning on social media that unwinding the redistrict measure will be strongly opposed. Now, for all of you beautiful people who are watching, I need somebody to tell me, why are we having people and organizations throw around $1 million to ultimately disenfranchise said voters? Because I get it. People who are partisan may be looking at this through a lens of, well, they did it to us, or they trying to do it to us, so we gonna do it to them. But what happens to the residents who are also losing political power as a result? And the only reason I'm asking this question is because these people supposed to care about us, or at least they say so. I mean, I know that they don't care about us. I know a lot of y'all don't. I know a lot of y'all know that they don't care about us. But this is the type of stuff where you gotta really be like, yo, they are showing their hand. This is a moment of, see, you trying to do right. You may have good intentions, which I don't believe, but let's just say they have good intentions. Nobody up there is smart enough. None of these CEOs, none of these presidents, execs, none of these Harvard grads, Yale grads are like, this goes completely against our platform. This goes completely against our rhetorical speech. How does any of this make sense? I'm confused. Can anybody in the comments tell me how this helps people participate better in politics and in the political process? And not people with millions and millions of dollars. Please tell me, and thank you. Like the video, share the video, because I need somebody. If y'all can't explain it to me and y'all kind of confused, just as confused as I am, I need somebody to explain it to us. So please help a brother out. But thank you for coming to not my TED Talk, but just a state of confusion as to how we end up here. Thank you. You all enjoy the rest of your day. I love you and I appreciate you. And thank you.